All right. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to Side-Eye in the City, episode 14, y'all.
Oh, shoot.
We's teenagers in this mofo. Almost old enough to drive.
Yes.
I am your host, Typhoid Mary. Uh, just kidding. I'm your host, Tamika. As you can see, or possibly hear, I'm getting over a bit of a cold, so excuse me, my Kleenex, and should any stray mucus show up, my apologies. Um, I have with me this week my beautiful and lovely co-hosts, Christina,
Hi.
hey, and Miss Sunny.
Hello, everyone.
And we're your side-eye team for today. So today we have on the agenda, we're going to do our book club meeting of Awkward Black Girl. Sorry, can y'all see my, it's not really showing very well. This is why I should have bought the book. But anyway, it's The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl by Issa Rae, which is hilarious and really good. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some, different side-eye worthy things occurring this week. So while we just go ahead and get started and find out what's going on with you ladies, what's new, what's popping, what's happening in your lives.
Not too much.
Okay.
School, work, children, back to school. I had finals and went right into a new class. So that's going, and it's actually warm in Michigan for like the first time since last summer. So it's kind of wonderful. Okay.
Always.
Yes, yes, yes. So other than that, I'm good. What about you, Sunny?
Just maintaining. Just maintaining. Blessed to be alive, but just maintaining.
I see, I see. Yeah, same here. My class at UT Dallas just wrapped up last week. I actually still have to finish writing the final and get it posted so they can get it, so my students can get it turned in by Wednesday. But we just had our last class this past week, so
No.
that's over. Went really well. It was one of those things where you're not really sure how well things are going. But like a lot of my students came up after class and were like, "Oh, this was a great class, and I just want to shake your hand." And of course, they could have been sucking up. That is a distinct possibility.
That I'm completely fine with a little suck up. It's cool.
But it went really well. So glad to have that under my belt, and still don't know what's going to happen next semester. The life of an adjunct. So we shall see. But for right now, yeah, we just wrapped up the spring 15 semester. So that's all
Awesome.
that's going on here.
It's wonderful.
So let's get us started, I guess. A weird pop-up showing up. My apologies there. Okay, so why don't we, I guess, you know what, let's start with the hard stuff first.
Okay. Okay.
And talk about developments in Baltimore recently and around the death of Freddie Gray. So I'm assuming you haven't been living under a rock. And even if you have, that rock probably has Wi-Fi. You know what's going on in Baltimore around the death. Again, the yet another death of an unarmed African American male, seemingly at the hands of police. Mr. Freddie Gray, I think he was 25 years old. Um, he, I think, excuse me, sorry.
Right.
I think the original incident said something mentioned about him making, just randomly making eye contact with a police officer, and somehow that leading to a chase, which
Oh,
I wasn't aware that making eye contact was illegal, but apparently it is in Baltimore,
right.
or at least it is now. And so that led to a police chase, at which time when he was caught, he was beaten and then restrained and then put into the back of the police transport vehicle. Wasn't strapped down. As far as from what I've read and seen, he was just kind of just tossed in there like a sack of potatoes, not restrained or caught, like not with a seatbelt or anything. And then he died. Um, Sometime somewhere between his transport to the jail, which took 45 minutes and 4 stops, um, 3 of which they only initially reported. His injuries were severe enough as to include a severed spinal cord, a crushed larynx, crushed vocal box. I believe I read about cracked ribs, just really, really bad. Now, from the video, because there is video of his arrest, from the video that I've seen, and you all can correct me if you've seen something different, it looks like he's kind of carried into the van, like he doesn't seem to walk into the police carrier. So, it's possible his injuries could have occurred during the encounter, which they claim was justified and not a beating, but whatever. But it doesn't look to me like he walked even to get into the transport. It's kind of, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm a snotty mess. Sorry. Like he seemed like his legs were kind of limp even then. But the police story was that his injuries occurred in the van, and there was even some kind of speculation trying to suggest that he injured himself because it's so easy to snap your own spinal cord.
Absolutely.
So, as a lifelong clumsy person, I am calling complete side-eye and bullshit on that. Because as many times as I've fallen down, I should have snapped my spinal cord years ago. So that is completely 100% bull.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So anyway, so
that's pretty much what I heard. I know I was just gonna say that's pretty much what I heard and saw. It didn't look as though he was in top shape when they took him to the police transport vehicle in the first place. So,
right.
Just the idea behind it all is so mind-boggling and disturbing. And there is no justification. I can't say with a clearer conscience, there's no justification for beating someone to the point that everything, the major bones in their body have been crushed and broken. As a police officer, I was always under the impression, clearly these past few months have proven me wrong, but I was always under the impression that the police were to try and, if a person was armed, to disarm them, or if the person was fighting back to, subdue them and stop them from that fight, but not to incapacitate them or to remove them from living. That's not the point of apprehending a subject. And I think that somewhere between, we know you have a very tough job. Those police officers that do not partake in, ridiculous acts of terrorism by police. I know that you have a very, difficult job enforcing the law. However, to take it into your own hands and the lives of the citizens that you're supposed to be protecting, even those who are doing things wrong, you're still supposed to be protecting them.
Right.
It's so ridiculous sometimes to even think about some of these things. And on the flip side, when you watch other non-African American criminals do things in retaliation to being or attempted arrests or attempted apprehensions, and they do even more than these men have done, as far as fighting back and, biting and kicking, and then they even have guns and that sort of thing. And it very rarely ends in a death, but for whatever reason, the black men that are being, and women that are being,
right.
It's just like, it's just crazy because I can't even wrap my mind around it, because it's not even just non-African American or black. It's not even non-ethnic police officers. They're involved in it too. And it's just like, so is there a training that we're not aware of that says, hey, if the criminal or the, alleged criminal is brown, all bets are off, do what you want,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sunny?
Well, I was listening to quite a bit of podcasts and interviews this week pertaining to the the riots and also the incident in hand. And one of the things that really struck me, I was listening to Montel, uh, not, what is his name? What was the gentleman who used to do the television,
William?
uh, Montel Williams. He had a very valid point when he said, you know, when you look at how people go into the Army and the armed services, and they go in for so many months, and they're deployed for so many months, it's almost like the same scenario. When they come back, they need time to reevaluate, kind of like get over whatever the straw issues that they went through. And what he was saying is the police departments have to also look at this the same way. You cannot continue to put people in the same environments of where they become later on hostile and resent the people that they're protecting. And I think a lot of it is people are overwhelmed and overworked. So I will say, as police officers, they do have a lot on their plate. But I also feel like if you were trained by a crooked cop, you're automatically going to take on that same ideology of I hate the people that I protect. Or if you're in impoverished areas, you're going to always look at them as the enemy and always feel like you have to have your defenses up. And with that being said, I feel that in this day and age that we're living in, I don't think people are psychologically able to care about some of the individuals that they are perceiving as perps or criminals. And a lot of that consists of what? Impoverished African American neighborhoods, and they're not having an opportunity to where the police and the people of the community can actually have a bond, because the system is already probably either corrupted or people are overworked and just over it, you know. And it breaks my heart to hear another story, but we also have to be very realistic, and if we got to learn how to change the system, I think. I mean, I may be rambling on, but there's so much that's been going on about the situation that it's just making me start to think of how are we going to start changing the system, because we're seeing it, the same story being told every other month just about of an African
Every
American
other
male.
week.
Right. So it's like, what's our steps to change the system? Should we start evaluating the police officers as they're going out there? Maybe they're not supposed to be out there for so many months in a particular neighborhood. Maybe we got to start reevaluating their mental before they go back out there. So it's something that we got to start putting our hands in. We can't keep marching with no results. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It may sound crazy when I say this, but I think when Montel Williams was talking about that, it started to click, like there's at least something that's saying we have to reevaluate these police officers. Some of it may be racial charge. I'm not saying it's not. But at what point, because weren't there also 2 or 3 other African Americans involved in this particular situation when the young men, as far as the officers that are being charged? So we're past now
Yeah,
the race issue.
3 of them were African American.
So now we're looking at something. I
Right.
know
Yeah, 3 of the officers were.
Yeah. So I don't know. We got
Go
to
ahead.
start pinpointing. We have to start figuring out how to pinpoint, and that's where our government needs to get involved. And we got to start voting and really getting involved. Like, we got to end this. You know what I'm saying? It's got to come to an end more so than just trying to say it's racially charged or we're marching. We just have to come to a point where we have to reevaluate the systems because it's out of control.
I think that's a valid point.
Right.
I definitely think that's a valid point. Personally, I'm over the marching. I think that, you know, in its day, it was a good look, you know, but I think that we are past that,
Yeah.
and for the media to continue to bring up and run towards, but you could march, but you could march. Did you know you could march? It's like, you know what? Yes.
Right.
But what us marching hasn't gotten us very far, other than from point A to point B. We're marching, and you're still killing us. So I'm gonna need you to let that one go, you know, because that's not.
Well, here's the thing with that. Like, okay, so people that, because that's been bothering me too, like the way that the media even framed this story, like they covered, well, first of all, nobody really covered it until like all the destruction broke out. I'm not going to call it violence, because I honestly think in order for something to be violent, it has to involve violence against a person.
Right.
So violence against buildings
And things.
is not violence to me. It's destruction. You can call it destruction, but I'm not going to call it rioting. I'm not going to call it violence. But whatever it was, until stuff popped off in Baltimore, nobody cared. He was just yet another dead black kid who probably did something wrong and deserved to die. So the media showed up when shit started getting lit on fire. That's when the media showed up. And then the story was framed about how these lawless thugs and even the mayor, the black female mayor
Yes.
of Baltimore, called her own citizens and the children of her own citizens thugs.
Mm-hmm.
The media didn't show up and didn't care until these thugs acted up. So there's a couple ways to look at this. Number one, the way that the first incidences of unrest broke out, basically they shut the city down. Like when the story hit and people learned about what happened to him, and like first of all, the protests had been going on for days. Like protests had been going on for like I want to say like about a week, at least 3 or 4 days prior to any incidences. The police responded, and of course, as usual, they over-responded like they did in Ferguson, and you saw all of the assault vehicles and the armor and stuff come out. Then the mayor shut down the city, shut down public transportation, shut down the buses, closed schools. But the way that they closed schools, I want to believe it was like close to the end of a school day or at the end of a school day, but basically they stranded all these kids. So you've got kids trying to get home and literally no way for them to get home. And in one of the biggest schools in the area, like as the kids were coming out, they were met by police in riot gear. Now, say what you want, but to me that is the situation being escalated from the people who are supposedly there to keep order. Like they escalated this whole situation. That's number one. But then regardless of who started it or who said what or who did what, the fact that we framed this whole story around how shameful and how awful these people are, and you got Ray Lewis recording stupid-ass YouTube videos yelling for 5 minutes. What the hell was that? We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, but the whole media, all the media that I saw framed it about how, you know, these rioters, these thugs, and I'm using scare quotes because that's not how I ever refer to them, but how these riotous thugs were doing all this destruction and they burned down the CVS and yada, 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 and they're just a problem. Okay, none of the media ever mentioned how those thugs were being baited, because there was also that game, I think it was an Orioles game, where the fans literally going to and coming from the event were calling them niggers and nigger go home and saying all kinds of shit. So of course that escalated things too. But nobody covered that at all. Like that wasn't mentioned in the mainstream media. It wasn't on CNN. It wasn't on MSNBC. I don't touch Fox News, but I'm assuming they sure as hell didn't report on that either. So like, okay, so we've got the media only focusing on the people who they say are problematic.
Right.
But the only reason the media is there is because those problematic people said enough is enough. So this whole, just march and be quiet thing, it's like, okay, so first of all, when has any social movement ever happened without disruption?
Period.
Name one. I'll wait. Okay. And that's just because that's the point. So whether you're marching and singing Negro spirituals or burning shit down, the point is to disrupt something that isn't working. So even marching in itself is disruptive. Now, if you're marching and being peaceful and, doing all of the respectable, non-intrusive things that, white folks tell us to do, and then white folks show up and start calling you niggers and throwing shit at you, we're supposed to turn the other cheek? Like what? Okay. All right. So there's that. But then, as far as like, okay, so we're talking about how they burned down they broke into the CVS, and I think there was some looting, and the CVS was, I don't think it was burned, but there was an old folks home that was set on fire and that was burned. Okay. And so now we've got all the cameras again focused on the thugs and the problems and talking about how lawless they are, and now we've got Ray Lewis saying, "Go home, get off the street." Right. Really. Was that really helpful, Ray Lewis? And the thing about that, this is what cracks me up about that, is he's making this supposedly impassioned speech about, how you don't be violent. but he's doing it extremely violently.
Oh, no. Let's rewind. Let's rewind for the fact that if you are a Ravens fan and know his history, he went to jail for violence.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rammed somebody. He was involved with that whole issue. So, allegedly, you know how you have to say allegedly nowadays. So, the reality of it is he's a criminal.
Right.
Allegedly.
So don't be violent unless you can afford a team of
You know how to
lawyers.
shank. You know how to shank somebody.
Right, you shook a murder rap, but now you want to yell at people. Really?
Exactly.
Not my city.
Holier Than Thou came out. And I love Ray Lewis, but I'm like, you may not be the spokesperson for this.
Get off the street. I'm just going to start randomly screaming at people for no reason. Get off the street. Not my city. You won't do that in my city. Not today. Not today. Like, okay, dude. Hulk smash. Okay.
I saw that and I turned it off. I couldn't even finish it. I was like, boy, sit down.
I watched about 5 seconds of it. I was like, dude, seriously? Okay, right. And,
I had a hearty chuckle at that. I had a good laugh.
Comedy.
Especially when we got to the it takes a village to raise a child. I'm like, okay,
And
so
how
now we're
many
just
kids
randomly
you have?
saying shit. Like, what the hell? Like, we're just randomly saying phrases, you know? I don't know. What the fuck?
He's crazy. He's still cute, but he's crazy.
I'm not even going to give him that, girl. I'm not even going to give him that anymore, okay?
Oh, what?
Yeah, crazy kind of cuts down on the cute factor for me, too, I'm going to say.
Begins, maybe I'll, be nice again. But as of right now, they can go ahead and take Ray off of that commentator. I don't need Ray's commentation. You know what? I will probably be one of those people in the background. You know when they set up the booth at the football games.
Yeah.
You see the people walking past. I'd be behind with a sign like, "But he got off for murder." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I wouldn't be any help. I wouldn't be any help. So yes, that was some foolishness. Absolutely.
So we've got like the mayor calling the children and the protesters thugs, and the whole media sort of framing the story that way.
The children that she left with no way home.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Exactly. And then we get the curfew instituted that was just lifted last night,
Right.
which, if you ask me, was a day too late.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. And the only reason it was lifted last night is because, as we mentioned a few minutes ago, the prosecutor, also a woman of color, what is her, Marilyn Mosby?
Yes.
Yeah. Woman of color, newly elected for this very reason, to clean up corruption and over-policing of black communities, literally voted in on that platform, not beholden to a lot of like big money. I don't know how popular she is with the Democratic establishment, because I believe they're both Democrats, but I want to say Marilyn Mosby was more, ran without a lot of mainstream Democratic support, which we'll see if that, makes a difference. But she's newly elected. This is her first sort of big moment, and she decided to charge all of them, all 6 officers, black and white. And so, of course, as soon as they released pictures of the officers, of course, we had the people show up on social media saying, see, this wasn't racist, blah, 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 blah. And that's bullshit also. So side-eye to that. And it's because of what Sonny was saying. It's because even if a black officer, or I should say, a black officer who over-polices and sort of overly relies on these violent tactics and this sort of over-aggressive policing of primarily black and brown people, even if the officer is black, it doesn't mean that they're not racist, because there is an entire system, an entire structure where that's sort of built in.
Yes,
where
the system of racism. So
exactly, where to be black is to automatically be suspect. So that whole argument of, well, see, 3 of the officers were black, so clearly this wasn't about race. No, it was, because the guy that died is black. And regardless, even if he wasn't black, and here's the thing, even if you all want to sanitize this issue and make it not about race, the fact is a person died horribly. Horribly. He died in what had to be an excruciating pain. He died alone. He died scared. Like, who doesn't have the right to be outraged about that, regardless of if he was a black man or anybody? You know what I'm saying? We have more compassion for dogs, for animals.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
No,
if someone threw a dog hard enough to snap their spinal cord, does anyone here doubt that that person will be under the freaking jail immediately? But you do this to a person, and we're not supposed to react.
So, with that being said, I got to jump in.
Can you hear me?
Did you say Michael Vick? What?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
No, there was actually an article where it showed in this particular scenario where protesters had a dog wilded out on the police officer kicked the dog, and I'm thinking, so we writing articles now about this? This is important news?
Yes.
So
right.
There has been a situation where a dog has been abused in this whole situation that got some play.
But what I'm saying is, like, okay, so, like, all of this thing, like, we have this whole situation sort of exploding in front of us, and people, like, showing up to condemn the protesters because they were destructive against property. And they were. I'm not going to argue that, looting a CVS or burning down no folks' home. Right? I even read that some people lost their actual homes, like a woman lost her home.
Wow.
So they were being destructive. And so you have the entire collective media showing up to judge and point fingers about how they're being destructive against property. But these police were massively destructive against a person.
Yes.
Like, that's what started this. And that bothers me. It's like, okay, so you severed a man's spinal cord.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the right to be upset about that?
We're mad about CVS.
Right, we're mad about fucking CVS.
Are
you kidding me? Who's been overcharging us for years? I mean, come on.
They burned up all that birth control. You know what I'm saying? That's so important.
But you know what? We have to take into consideration. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm always the type of person. I don't go by necessarily what I hear and read. And yes, I do listen to Fox News. But I also have seen a lot of different interviews pertaining to them actually interviewing the people who live and reside. And I don't know if you all had the opportunity to see this, where they were talking about, they interviewed the Crips, Bloods, all the gangs. Yeah, and what I had so much respect for is when they say, we're not representing our colors, we're standing up as black men. And they were saying that some of those people in that neighborhood were not from their neighborhood doing the rioting and burning and stealing. They were saying that a lot of that was they were there trying to stop a lot of it, and the police officers were throwing things at them and burning them with things and tear gas, and they were trying to protect their neighborhood. And if you look at some of these visuals, some of these are not black people that are rioting. These are white people out there stealing and burning, and they're not telling that story. But you also got to remember, I'm always going to remember things that when things happen, I think people are paid to go in and do more, to make it a bigger deal. You know what I'm saying? And that may sound crazy, but you got to think outside the box of every time that these things happen, are they paying people? Because I even remember seeing a young man do a World Star video. Now, don't sleep on World Star now, because the young man was saying people are being paid to go into Ferguson to burn and loot our neighborhoods. He said these people aren't even from our neighborhoods. And I think that that's something that people have to really think about and consider, that maybe it's not the people of that community destroying their community. It could be something totally different. Like even when they arrested the other protester, remember that instead of arresting him on camera, they had to have the what was that big army truck go through. Then they tackled him. If you got to do all of that, I don't think any theory of someone coming into your neighborhood, destroying your neighborhood, is far-fetched. So,
right. And I'm just going to piggyback off of that, because maybe about a week ago, I probably wouldn't okay, and I don't really I don't believe this conspiracy theory. However, all that changed. And this is why. And it's because of what you just brought up. The Bloods and Crips. Now, you talked about how they were protecting their community and cleaning up. Well, I don't know if y'all heard this, but this is actually kind of funny. And this actually happened. The police put out a press release and were urging the media to cover it, and some of the media picked up and ran with it, that this is so ridiculous. That the Bloods and the Crips had joined forces to attack the police. The Bloods and the Crips and some other gang, like the Guerrilla Gang or something,
Yes.
had basically formed an alliance,
Yes.
like Survivor or some crap, to wage war and attack the police.
Yes.
And they put this crap out there, like, okay, so, and they, according to their press release, they had credible evidence, and they knew for a fact that an attack was imminent.
Right.
Now, I say that to say, again, bullshit. Number one. And number two, and this is what kills me about this. It's like, okay, so you all are so sophisticated and so, so smooth with your investigative technique and your ability to infiltrate these gangs that you know this attack is coming, you know that they've, allied themselves to each other. Y'all are so good to know that. But you don't know what happened in your own damn police van.
Yeah.
Like, really? So y'all have infiltrated the Bloods and the Crips and the Guerrilla Gang, but you don't know what happened in the back of your own damn police van? Really?
Of course not. That makes too much sense. You know what? To further validate Sonny's conspiracy, this one was a Black Greek conspiracy.
Ooh, okay.
Some of it. I believe it was CNN, but CNN reported that the gang, the Zeta,
were Zeta gang, I love it.
Were infiltrating, area, and they were going to, shut down this portion of the city, as a force to be reckoned with, because this gang, Zeta Phi Beta. My mouth just dangled open like, what? I'm like, this is a 100-year-old female Greek organization, and you're
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are the new gang? So I
and
said,
had them on video.
Yes, I had one.
Are you serious? Wait, you got to send me the link. Please post that in the chat, because that's freaking hilarious. That's hilarious.
One of my favorite Zetas. Okay, she sent me a message, and she's like, so apparently we're a gang. So if you put on your Delta letters, then maybe we could go down there. It'd be just like the Crips and the Bloods. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are red, we're blue, they down there, we're apparently a gang, so maybe y'all are a gang too,
So the Crips and the Bloods were the Deltas and the Zetas? Oh my god. That's hilarious. So wait, so who's the Guerrilla Gang? Is that the AKAs? I don't understand.
No, that might be the Alphas. I think they use the guerrillas when, and
Oh, that's too funny. Oh, that's hilarious. That's funny. So yeah. So clearly, some foolishness and some deliberate attempts to subvert also happened in Baltimore. Oh my goodness. So yeah. So anyway, moving on from the foolishness. So then I can say, first of all, Sonny, I'm with you. I wouldn't
come
put
on
it past
over to
them.
the theories,
Right. I wouldn't put anything past these people. I really wouldn't. So moving on. So Miss Mosby, she charged them fools. I think there was like second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, or I think it was second-degree manslaughter. I don't think it was murder. Reckless endangerment, like a whole slew of charges. Basically, everything she could charge them with, she charged them with, which kind of diffused the situation, and like tensions had kind of let up by yesterday. And I think the charges were announced on Friday, so tensions had already started to let up, which is why I say she was still the mayor was still kind of slow in releasing the curfew. But, well, I'm going to pose this to you guys. So what do you all think about the charges, that there are going to be charges? Because it kind of leads into another topic that I posted in the chat. So, initial thoughts on the charges.
Charges that's the beginning. We actually have to be found, guilty of charges. So I think that this is a step in the right direction. For Ms. Mosby, I definitely, I'm very pleased that she decided to go ahead and do that and didn't do the, well, we're going to ask the, the lords of the white if, even consider.
You're going to have a fake indictment and ask literally anybody if we should charge them, even people that weren't there. Yeah.
People who don't know, people from farmersonly.com, so, I mean, I think that that's the beginning of it. That's the beginning. But we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same thing here. It's one of those situations. They're doing something now. People are happy and excited about them actually putting some effort to convict them. But the reality of it is, what's the end result? Because they could still walk away
Right.
Right.
and have
Right.
their job.
Right. Exactly. Um, and that's why I asked, because like there was a lot of like coverage around how basically tensions really eased and people were happy and literally dancing and celebrating in the streets. Um, I don't feel like celebrating.
No,
I mean,
we
I'm cautiously
excited
happy,
too quick. We get
but
excited
I'll
too quick.
right. Like I feel like I'll dance. And I will literally moonwalk when all 6 of them are in jail, every
Right.
last one. Then I'll do my Michael Jackson and
Just
whatever
roll
else
it
I can come
out.
up with. I'll Dougie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I'll celebrate. Is when some folks get some time.
We'll nay then, but at the
Right.
moment, we need to stand and be strong because anything can change.
Right. Now I say that because just the week before this, there was the killing of, well, the killing happened, I think, last year of
Mhm.
Rakia Boyd.
Yes.
Again, another police killing. The facts of this one, there was a crowd around, I believe some kind of fight or something had broken out, but it had dispersed by the time that the shooting happened.
Yes.
And basically the shooting was from an officer who just fired blindly into a crowd.
Yes.
There were no other weapons. Like his claim was that he saw weapons and they were shooting at him.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out there were no other shots fired, and there were no other weapons found on anyone anywhere.
I think the
And
gentleman
whatever.
was reaching for a cell phone.
Right. Right. But and even like the fight that had broken out had cleared up by then, so there wasn't even that of like this crowd getting out of control. Like whatever fight had happened had already broken up. And so basically, he just fired blindly into a crowd and hit someone, and he hit this young woman, Rakia Boyd, in the head, and she died. Messed up. Again, completely ridiculous, tragic, unfortunate, unnecessary. And so, rarely, because again, these things don't often happen, he was actually charged and acquitted.
Yes.
And this actually happened the week before Mr. Gray was killed. So that kind of brings us back to the whole waiting to celebrate.
Exactly. I mean, when I listened to some of the reasons, his testimony and everything, it was just like, so you shot into a crowd because you were afraid and you thought you saw a weapon being drawn. So, yeah, I don't believe that's standard police protocol for a crowd.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's not. So, for
Right.
someone to have died, even if, because the technicality behind it was basically if he was afraid, that whole "we scared of y'all." But if he was afraid and thought that there was a weapon, him firing in self-defense, and it was an accident that the young lady was killed. He was not trying to kill her. Therefore, it was not, a murder. It wasn't a manslaughter because he was just shooting. It's like, seriously, really? So if I go to, someone's home and accidentally shoot them, but I was really, just trying to have fun, that doesn't mean that the person, I still killed them. So why is this not the same for the police? But like I said, so that's why I'm not celebrating either. We're just gonna wait, see how it goes.
Right.
And just see how it goes.
Right.
That's
And he wasn't even charged with manslaughter or anything. I think he was charged with reckless something, or his actions were reckless. And somehow his actions were deemed not reckless.
Right, exactly.
And I'm just thinking, if firing blindly into a crowd isn't reckless, what is? I mean that to me seems like the textbook definition of reckless is just firing blindly into a crowd. And I don't think you can get more reckless or careless than that.
The judge said something like he meant to fire, so it wasn't reckless, but he didn't mean to kill her. It was some foolishness. It was some foolishness and falderall, for real.
So what? So he shot into a crowd
For
For
fun.
fun?
Maybe I hit
I
the
don't get it. That doesn't make any sense at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. So we can't celebrate too early. No need for the moonwalk yet. Don't hit the Dougie. Just wait until we actually get some real charges. It reminds me a lot of although the officers were not all white, it reminds me a lot of the Malice Green case in Detroit years ago. Where Malice Green was a criminal-esque individual. I don't remember exactly what crime he was committing at the time, but they beat him to death. And, everyone was all excited when they decided to charge them, but their case was, months long, before there was actually a conviction. So we can't just, jump into the happy seat because she did, bring up charges. I think that it did diffuse a lot, and it was needed. It was a great thing to be done, but it is no.
And it only happened because of that damn CBS.
Yes.
Like, I do believe that.
Yes.
But anyway. Yeah.
Possibly the old people, but really.
And possibly the old people, yes.
Right, really just that. I mean, hopefully there's more to it because of her position. Maybe there's a bit more to it from her, but we got a long way to go. This is just them putting the gloves on. They haven't rang the bell yet.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, initial impressions of the prosecutor, Miss Mosby, she certainly seems a lot more respectful of the context in which this is happening. At least, well, I'm going to say it more than the mayor so far. No, we'll see. We'll definitely see. Like, I'm interested to see where this goes, and hopefully, some folks will be convicted and go to jail, and
I think the mayor is probably a product of exactly what Sunny was just discussing, as far as the police and systematic racism and the way that one feels about the community that they are supposed to be helping. If the mayor of Baltimore, her original or her real feelings toward the community, were, these are the people that I'm here to serve. They wouldn't have been thugs off rip. She wouldn't have shut down the city knowing that there are children that need to be, brought home or picked up, even by their parents. You completely stopped everything, and in your mind, we got to stop these thugs. But what about the rest of the people of your city? What about people that are at
people
work?
Coming home from work? Yeah,
people don't even know that this is going on right now. I'm just leaving work, putting my purse on my shoulder, trying to catch the bus to go pick up my baby. And I can't do that. So where's my child? I have to try and get to where he or she is, and there's no transportation. I mean, and
there's no school buses. So literally, the only way these people can get home, these children can get home, is public transportation. And shut down public transportation.
Not thinking about anyone other than this systematic foolishness. You automatically go into, we got to stop this mess. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You have other people that you're supposed to be concerned about. So I definitely.
Well, even the framing of we got to stop this mess is problematic.
Oh, no, I'm saying that's the problem. I'm saying that's the problem.
Yeah.
that's not how you address or how you serve a city. You have to think about everyone. You can't just think about this one situation. This is going on. That's true. But we also have other citizens that need to do A, B, and C. It shows where her heart is. I'm quite certain that this may be her very last term, whatever term it is.
I got the impression that it was her first term, so yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Yes. Calling your people that voted you in thugs is probably a bad idea.
Right. Well, to be accurate, she only called their children thugs, and according to what's the chick's name on CNN? Oh, I have to look her up. Brooke something.
Okay.
According to her, she was right. Remember the guy, the city council member, who was like, "Oh, just call them niggers."
Yes. Something struck. Now that was a classic moment.
Well, let's get into that. So, thug is the new nigga, apparently.
Well, if you come, as a mom, if you come for my baby, you're coming for me. So, if you want to call my baby, you're calling me a thug. So, like I said, I'm the voting thug. So we see how far you get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that one was a classic moment, but I will say,
awesome.
I will say that we have to start taking these words of negative terms serious because it's just like the basically calling this the N word in our faces, and we're having to just sit down and accept it.
Right.
And that term thug, like you remember when Sherman from he played for Seattle. Remember when they called him a thug?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well-educated young man, even finished college, unlike some athletes. And he even talked about the term thug, and we got to be careful with this, um, giving us, putting us in boxes of being thugs, because it blows my mind, because, I mean, you be gang members and you're part of a sorority, and then,
That's Zeta Gang, man. They're fierce, girl. They are
yeah.
fierce.
So does that mean that if I'm out having brunch with a bunch of African American women, does that make us thugs who are part of our brunch gang? You gotta
Oh
be.
my God, are we a gang? Holy shit. Gang.
The
We gotta make
side
up some symbols and get jackets or something.
so we gotta be careful with the term, because if they continue, because here's the thing, most of their children love everything about hip hop, thug
You know.
mentality. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna lie to you. That's where it pisses me off when they're very specific on saying this group is this thug group and they're a bunch of thugs. I'm even disappointed that President Obama would feel that he has
Hmm.
the right to say that, because at the end of the day, they're referring to you the same way.
Right. Although he didn't say thug, but he did call them criminals, I think.
I think he said thug though.
Did he
I think
say
he said
thug? Oh,
criminals
okay.
and thugs. I think
Wow.
now. I need to go back and get my facts, but I want to say he's also used the term criminals and thugs.
Hmm.
But we have to be very careful with those terms that they're putting us in these boxes with, and
Hmm.
especially right about now. I don't know if you all seen the the Time magazine front cover. Um, to me, this is defining where we are, and it's scary because on the magazine, it's America 1968, and they crossed in 1968 to put 2015, and it's a young black male running from a group of police officers,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
to me, I started crying when I saw it because it speaks volumes, and it speaks of how they portray, how media is portraying, and how we're not seeing much change from 1960s. And I know this may sound crazy, but when I watched the movie Selma, to me, we're seeing it all over again. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And it's just like
Hmm.
times aren't changing. They're still giving us names. They're still categorizing us. We still cannot break the chains of just being citizens of America. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? It's like we just times that have not changed enough. I even started weeping because I look at my grandmother is telling me experiences of her time that I'm starting to feel that a part of my time. Like
Hmm.
even her grandchildren with a black president still has to deal with racial tensions in America, and it
Right.
just
Well, that's,
breaks my
yeah.
heart.
Like the thing that really touched me about all of this, like the way, like watching. Sorry, mucus.
You're
I got a
good.
gang in my nose apparently trying to attack me. Um,
You say?
the gang is Zetas and Crips up in there, just fighting. Okay. So, like watching all of these killings unfold and happen, and like looking at like how the circumstances are always identical. To me, it looks so very Jim Crow. And like even like the facts of this one are a perfect example. So all of this kicked off because this young man made eye contact with
Mhm.
a police officer.
Yes.
Now just go back, you don't even have to go back that far. 50, 60 years. It was literally illegal. It was illegal. It was codified. It was illegal for a person of color, for a black person, to look a white person in the eye. That was considered an act of aggression, justified or and a justifiable killing. So a white person could literally kill you for looking them in the eye, and it wasn't very long ago that that was law. The
Yeah.
whole thing that kicked off this Baltimore demonstration, riot, whatever you want to call them, all of this started because a black man looked a cop in the eye, and somehow that cop interpreted that as a crime being committed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what started this. We're in Jim Crow in 2015 in Baltimore. That's insane to me. That's insane. Like,
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that you read about in 1936 in Selma, Alabama. You don't read about that in 2015 in Baltimore, Maryland, when the president and the mayor and the prosecutor are African American. Like, it's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane. But it, honestly, it has to be what Jim Crow felt like. It has to be.
I'd like to reference one of Sonny's previous conspiracies.
Just go.
Go ahead.
It's almost like we are paying or being punished for having a black president.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And because of the system, because a lot of the systematic racism, I think that the system has swallowed so many of us, that we've begun to drink the Kool-Aid, and with the thug name calling and the this only happens to those people, I think that we've kind of gone back to some terrible mindsets and thinking about ourselves, and we don't even realize it because we're so busy thinking that we're progressive, that we don't see it until something happens, and you can really take a look, for yourself and say, okay, wow, wait a minute, this went totally wrong, and not because they were black, but we have an African American president, a black president, whatever you want to call him, and he also drank the Kool-Aid. You're not coming at what really happened. What really happened? Like you said, all of this Martin Luther King references and all these peaceful demonstrations, I
swear if one more white person hits me with Martin Luther King.
Oh, I'm telling you. I'm like, you know what?
Lose my shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. As if they forgot that y'all shot him too. You shot him.
I'm like,
peaceful.
Somebody made a meme that showed Martin Luther King in his casket, and it said, "This is what happens when you march." And I was like, "You see what I'm saying?" I mean, and it was bad, but it was so true, because it's like, okay, everybody keeps referencing, the marching and the nonviolent, but he's not here, and he was nonviolent. So what does that say?
And even going farther, he talked about the need for violent demonstration and why it happens and how it happens and the circumstances that lead to it. And he said it was poverty and over-policing and unfair treatment and segregation. And it's like he said this, before y'all shot him.
Right. That's kind of why he got shot, because he got off of the marches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Go to marches, honey. That's all. That's what you need is the marches.
Oh my God! Did you all see the Wolf Blitzer interview with DeRay McKesson? Yeah, DeRay. Am I saying, is it DeRay or DeRay?
It's DeRay. DeRay is actually a comedian.
Right, I thought so. I was like, that ain't.
But everybody kind of mixes them up. I heard about it several times, but I haven't had the opportunity to watch it yet. I heard.
Please do. Please, I think check out my Facebook. I think I posted it.
I think you did too. I heard that he came, he hit him right there in the jaw. Okay, I heard it was bomb.
Wolf Blitzer tried so hard to get him to say that the protesters were wrong and that they need to not be violent. Like, he all but said, apologize for these niggas. Like, seriously. Like, I'm not even kidding. Am I lying, Sonny? Am I lying? It was so ridiculous. Like, he kept saying, well, don't you agree with Martin Luther King and President Obama? And I'm like, are you really serious with this?
But at the end of every sentence, he was like, those windows can be replaced, but such and such will not be back. And I'm like, yes.
Right. Exactly.
Like I said,
we're going to rebuild those windows, but we're not going to repair Mr. Gray's spinal cord.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
We can't, we can rebuild another CVS, but we cannot rebuild Freddie Gray.
And the only reason we're talking is because of CVS, not Mr. Gray.
Oh, I'll watch it as soon as we get off today.
Please do. It is brilliant. And honestly, I found it so shocking. It's like so ridiculous that he was basically being call them to apologize. And again, this is how, like, that's the thing. This is how we frame these things in the media. It's like, okay, so you've got protesters who are justifiably angry and maybe involved employing some methods that nobody really condones or agrees with, but again, justifiably so. Like, I can understand why they're doing what they're doing, even if I don't condone it. But then you've got respected journalists basically calling on other black people to apologize for them.
Of course, because we always
we go on the news when white kids tear up college campuses because their team wins or loses. Do we go on there and say Hillary Clinton apologize for them crackers?
No, because we always put the mantle of black people on whatever spotlight is on the next Negro. So if something bad happens and now we're interviewing, Tamika, about, Sideeye. And we'll just segue right into what did you think that you should speak on behalf of how black people really feel. When did I get to be the spokesperson for the African American public? Just because I'm on TV, and even if I'm on TV with regards to this situation, I am not every black person. Right. All black people come from different times and areas, and we come together on certain issues as it relates to human rights. But you can't. We are constantly made to hold down all 275 years of slavery. And it's like, dude, that's not that one person's responsibility. They don't need to apologize. They don't need to extend a hand, comment. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, it's not his job to make y'all feel better about these riots. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, I feel like that's what happens. I feel like President Obama falls into that trap often. Like, he gets a lot of criticism, not all of it unjustified, that he doesn't approach social justice and racial justice issues.
He
gets
can't.
A lot of exactly, because even in the limited interaction that he's done with these topics, immediately he's called every kind of racist in the world. Like, this blew my mind when he spoke out about Trayvon Martin, and all he did was call for empathy and compassion. All he did was say, that could have been my son.
Yep.
How anybody interpreted that as racist is beyond me. But that was the criticism of him for weeks. And who was it who called him the most racist president ever, including even presidents who owned actual slaves?
Was it Rand Paul?
Oh my God, who was it? Oh, I want to say it was somebody on Fox.
Well,
Fox News.
What?
O'Brien? Anyway, I'll look it up. Well, regardless, like, he got so much flack for basically what just amounted to a call for compassion, and say, okay, this was a kid. He could have been my kid. This is wrong. This shouldn't happen. That's all he said, and somehow that made him a racist. And like, that's the crazy, ridiculous racial landscape that we live in. Whereas anybody who looks at something that happens and sees the injustice in it is immediately branded a racist. And now you have to stand up and apologize for all black people that have ever done anything in the history of time.
Yeah.
So I feel like the president gets saddled with so much of that.
Yeah.
And the minute that he sort of steps out of that presidential box, he gets attacked for it.
Well, we're all for one and one for all, and let y'all ride. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think with President Obama, the bad part is, and this is something I hope most African Americans do take into consideration, he's not our spokesperson, and he is most definitely not, I say, a leader in the sense of our movement. Does that make sense? Yeah. I think because he has to be
he really can't.
He's a leader of the nation, but he cannot be a leader of any movement. And I think that's where I hope that what comes from all of this are young people stepping up and fighting for rights and seeing that the importance of, you may have come from impoverished environments, but there's got to be a point where even if your mama or your daddy didn't help you get out of your situation and circumstances, you got to figure out, okay, I want better for myself, I want better for my children. Mm-hmm. We have to start taking these incidents, and even with myself, I have to look at what can I do and be better in my community to support someone that looks like me. And we just have to figure out our young people looking at how they can be leaders and how they can get out and vote and change some of these things. You can't change everything, but get out there and vote officials into office that are going to protect your interests as an individual and as a citizen. I really feel that the people who have who come from poverty don't have a voice, but I feel like some of that consists of they're just stuck in a rut and they don't believe that they have a voice. But I do feel that this should be a point in time where we start finding our leaders. And Al Sharpton, I'm sorry, brother, you're not one of them. But maybe this new generation will start looking at, we can't leave our communities and never come back. We have to go back to where we came from because it affects us in the long run. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So even if you can escape the poverty that you came from, you need to go back and help your brothers and sisters and figure out, okay, what can I do to be better and protect my future seed and see how I can protect my people in general. Because we don't have anyone at this point.
Right.
We have small, groups of people in certain areas that do things, but as far
we have DeRay McKesson doing some awesome work all over the country, really.
Absolutely.
And making Wolf Blitzer look like a damn fool.
Right.
Which, if he ever runs for office, he's got my vote just on that alone. So.
But you know what's sad? I have to admit, I didn't even know who he was until I saw the how he read dude. And that's something that I hope that I can find that there are more leaders that I can be inspired by so I could be a leader. You know what I'm saying?
No one wants to publicize DeRay and what he's doing. There's a young lady that he's often with too. I can't think of her name. I don't.
Yeah, I think I just followed her on Twitter recently.
I don't remember what her name is. Apologies, but I think that something like this has actually made them, more of a person to look to on a national level because people didn't know about them. Some of us heard about them with Ferguson, but again, they weren't given any publicity because they were just, seen as, just a small black person. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
this may have opened a line of communication to more black people by him, read on old boy.
Nessa, I think her name is, another activist in Ferguson.
I think it is.
I think I said that right. And I could have sworn I followed her, but now I can't find her. But yeah. Okay, so I guess doesn't look like we're gonna get to awkward black girl. So Miss Sunny gets a reprieve for this week.
My suggestion is that you download that Audible, girl. Get it. You can knock it out in 2 days because I did.
I listened to it. I listened to a little bit. So we can bust it out today if y'all want to and be done with it. She talked about food. She talked about the addiction of food at one point.
Which is
like the first chapter.
Woo, side-eye.
But at least I got some of the book. I got some of it.
Yeah, that's better than what I thought you read. So.
Well, we can. I don't know, because I want to just talk about the first chapter, but then I kind of want to talk about. Did you all see the woman that found her son and basically like beat him on camera?
Yes.
Ollie-whopped him.
Y'all want to talk about that?
But we can't. It's so unfortunate to me. Again, I'm a mom, and I can honestly say I wouldn't necessarily want my child or children to be actively participating in destruction. However, I have a certain level of consciousness that I think that his mother lacked, and through her interviews and such. I'm down with the discipline struggle. You all know that. I don't have a discipline struggle over here. We got that together real early, so really well behaved.
Did you join forces with the Bloods and the Crips to lay down the law in your house, Chris?
Got this together, okay? But no, so I have very well behaved children, but I can't say that if they wanted to participate in a movement of that nature, I may have very well went down there and got him, but it wouldn't have been the way that she did it, and it wouldn't have been what her reasons were. I would have, admonished my child to find someone like DeRay, or, find another avenue to make a statement. Again, I'm not saying that I completely disagree with the destruction, because how much marching you gonna do? But at the same time, you are a juvenile. You have your life ahead of you. I don't want you to start off like this. In that specific geographical location with a riot arrest on your record. You know what I'm saying? I just so for those reasons I can understand, but I don't know. I'm still I think that she's unfortunately a part of some of the problem.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take that and run with it, actually.
Go ahead.
There's two things that come to mind in that. Okay, so first when I saw it, like my first, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person, apparently. But when I first saw it, I kind of laughed a little bit, thought it was a little bit funny.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just the embarrassment of, oh my gosh, your mom just whooped you on TV.
Yeah,
so that was my initial juvenile, shame on you reaction, shame on me. Okay, so now that that's over, and I committed violence, so
Right.
Don't profile me. Right. I'll put down my gang affiliations later. Okay. Yeah. So seeing that and hearing like her reaction, like once she found out she was famous and all that, and basically she reacted out of fear. And this reminds me of something that I saw on Melissa Harris Perry earlier, and how when you said she's a part of the problem, like I feel like you're right. Like there's this narrative, and it almost feeds into sort of the respectability politics. And there's this narrative that says that if I just discipline my kids enough, if I just, keep them in line, then I can keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that is absolutely wrong. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
As we've seen time and time and time and time and time and time again. So that's wrong. But I understand her reaction, and I understand her fear, and how she did what she did. But there's that layer of sort of uncertainty right there. And then just further kind of looking at the incident and how the media reacted to it, and how people were so gleeful and joyful of her beating her son on TV, I found it disturbing. Like beyond my initial chuckle, it's like, okay, why are we so excited that this woman beat her kid on TV? And another podcaster that we both listen to, Rod, on the Black Guy Who Tips, he said it so well. And I'm like, that's it. He's like, seeing that woman show up and beat her kid, he's like, that's what these people who are calling her a hero, that's what they want to do. They want to crack down. They want to beat the hell out of these kids.
Yep.
And like, I'm like, that's it. And that's a problem. It's because we exist in this framework, whereas to be black, somehow we've gotten to this point that to be black and to be managed requires violence.
Right.
And this incident of this simple incident of this woman getting upset and getting scared and disciplining her child on camera sort of kind of uncovered how we think about policing black bodies and how we think about governing black children.
Exactly.
And it's a problem. It's a big, big problem. Like why, like really like listening to some of the news reports of it, like these reporters and media personnel were just so gleeful, just so excited to see this happen. And it's really disturbing. And I'm not accusing her of abuse. I'm not judging her in any way. I even understand her reaction. I do. I get it. I totally get it. But to celebrate it like that with so much glee and excitement,
yes,
it's disturbing. It's disturbing.
It's part of the system, and I often, it's not a good thing, but it reminds me of the Willie Lynch Making of a Slave Letter. If you read the whole thing, there's a portion in there where it speaks about making black women fearful of losing their children, so that they'll do anything to keep their child from rebelling. It's in there. It's not even, this isn't even similar. This is exactly what's in that letter. Now, whether he addressed it or he sent the letter or whatever still remains to be seen. However, if you actually read it, it's point blank right in there. How do we keep, the rebellion from happening? If you get these mothers afraid enough that they will keep their children from rebelling.
By any means possible. By any means they can. Including violence, yes.
Whether she's whooping them, hiding them, pretending that they're a girl instead of a boy so that they won't, be, there were so many avenues to do this. Basically, if you, like I said, as far as it's referencing direct slavery. So to keep your sons from rebelling like the older men did, oh no, baby, you can't do that. Mama wants you to live, or don't do that. So I'm gonna do anything I have to do. If I have to go down here in this riot in my heels and my yellow shirt from Dots and knock you upside your head, that's what I'm gonna do.
Shade. Yes.
But that's what I'm gonna do, and completely being televised in front of the nation, knocking you upside your head to get you to come home. They showed a picture of the young man, her son, her, and one of the city leaders on Facebook, and it was just like, it's very interesting to me that there are two adults in this picture and one child, and I think the child has more sense than both of the adults. It's very unfortunate. Like I said, I'm not saying in any way that I would want any of my boys to be throwing rocks, down there at tanks, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't handle it that way. I wouldn't handle it. Like I said, I would tell them, listen, baby, I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. But, your future depends on this. So let's handle it a different way. I'm right here with you, but let's handle it a different way. Come on and come home. I'm not about to whoop your tail on TV or, in front of all these people. Just come on.
Right.
But yeah, I think she's definitely she's a shining example of the system.
Mm-hmm. And that does, just to make clear, that doesn't make her a bad person even a bad parent. It makes her a scared parent, in which honestly, I don't see how any parents aren't scared right now. Her fear is justified. So I get her fear. I get it. I totally get it. It's just, it's so disturbing. It really makes me sad to think that this is how our social contract, the world that we live in, this is how they think of Black lives and Black bodies. That the only way to interact with people of color is through violence, and we've even internalized that.
That's why
that makes me sad.
That's why they're killing us without thinking about it or without trying to disarm or fight or anything like that. It's just just shoot them, and here she is showing that if you knock the hell out of one of us, then we'll submit.
Right.
So, unfortunate.
Right. And ironically, tragically ironically, what touched off her sort of going ham and going down there was that when she got there, he made eye contact, which is exactly what Freddie Gray did. So literally, a look. It makes me profoundly sad.
Right. Like I said, the gloves are on. We got a long fight though. We got a long fight. We went back.
Speaking of fights.
We went back. Games, data fight.
I'm sorry, Sunny, did you want to weigh in?
No, I guess I agree with both of you, and I never really saw it that way. I get what you're saying, how the media has taken it and ran with it, but I think if I were a mother, I would probably have done the same thing she did, just out of fear and instinct. But I also do think that, and this is just my personal opinion, I do feel like not every young person out there that's throwing rocks and doing this, that, and that really have a true understanding of what's going on. I think they're angry, and I think that they're following in the footsteps of, okay, I'm sick of being this because I've also been targeted, but I don't think that they're at the point where they can mentally prepare themselves for a true revolution. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. It does.
And so I feel like I will beat the hell out of mine too, because I'm like, you out here, but I probably just got onto your ass at the house because you didn't pick up your room. So mentally, how you gonna tell me you down for the cause when you can't even be man enough to, and he's still a boy. But I do feel like, with you all bringing up the point of how the media has taken it, I even thought if you take it back to slavery, how the woman is put as, where she, I had to look this word up to make sure it's what I don't even think it's a real word, but demasculinize a man, make him not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there is a point where I see how the media is taking this poor young child and making him look like he's not a man because you know you're being embarrassed by a black woman. But then I can
Which
see
says a lot about how we like to look at black men in society.
Right. And then when they go to baby boy action. So, I mean, I agree totally with what you all are saying, but I think also in that same token, I would still knock his head off because if you're not for real about that walk and talk in life, don't get out there pretending with your boys. I think that's where I took it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't entirely disagree with her. I certainly understand her reaction. And honestly, I feel like all of this, it was just that. It was a private moment of discipline that got caught on camera.
Public.
Right. And it got caught publicly.
And who's to say? I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard this somewhere where they may start investigating her because of the violence that was seen of how she is with her other children. So it's like, damn, yeah, she's out here being paraded and treated as a hero, but next week, is she going to have charges? I mean, and that's what scares me, how they've taken this fame, and I'm like, oh.
Right. Yeah. It says something about our media. It's a circus. It's surreal. It literally is a circus. Like the same media that's calling her a hero this week will be talking about she's a child abuser next week. And they'll be using the same video.
Yeah. It's evidence now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And like I said, I'm not a parent, but I just look at like my little cousins and I'm thinking to myself, heavens forbid if I ever saw them out there. And if I knew that they were not for the cause, like truly for the cause, I will call them out on it because this is bigger. This is so bigger than what I think throwing a rock, because I want to say there was even a young man who turned himself in, and his bail is ridiculously high to the point.
500,000.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like I don't know. I feel like I agree that the marching is overrated at this point. I feel like the rioting or whatever they want to call it, we got to figure out. But I was also listening to someone else, and he says we can't do anything unless there's an agenda, and I truly believe. We can't do anything else until we have a full agenda of what's next. Because there's steps to this. You know how they say there's levels to this? There's so many levels to this right now that it's just it's just kind of scary. And it really bothers me that these young men, you know, they're put in these situations where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, but then we expect them to be men. And I'm sorry to say, but I'm hyped up over the gang members right now who are coming together. You know, because they're
waging war against.
Like they even said, they're not even. But they're even saying they're not coming together for the fact to do harm to police officers. They're coming together because they're black men tired of being put into this cycle in this system. So for them to say that, to be honest, out of everything that's been said and done, that is the most positive in my head that I've seen from all of this is people starting to think about the reality of we got to be together. And that, to me, to have gang members who they do documentaries, you know, and really publicizes the negative people, for them to come together, I'm just like, I'm cool with that.
Even though they get framed as waging war. But yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I respect that, but I do feel bad for the mother because there's some consequences I don't think she's even aware of that are waiting for her.
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay. So I guess we'll go ahead and table Awkward Black Girl until next week. Because we don't have any other. No, you don't get off the hook either, Miss Queen. I'm going to quiz you on what happens in that book, and you better answer.
Just saying.
Teacher hat on. So I guess we'll go ahead and just segue into the fight, since we're talking about fighting and all that. So I didn't watch, but I know Chris did. Did you watch, Sonny?
I got a little piece of it. Well, I watched all of it. And I'm not a boxing fan because every time I see boxing, remember that part in Django where the slaves were fighting for their lives? That's how I feel like boxing really is.
Which actually can't be proven ever happened. But yes.
Yeah, but I feel like they're fighting to the death, and I'm like, this is Django. What are they doing? So I'm not a fan.
Well, Django, they weren't getting $240 million. So
Right. They just
I mean,
got to
I
die.
get it, but their
I think the one that
lifespan.
lived got a drink.
right.
Yeah, but I guess I think I look at it from their lifespan. Like if you poor Ali, bless his heart, you know,
Well,
bro ain't been the same since what, you know.
but it's a
So,
conscious choice. It's not
yeah,
forced like that.
Mhm.
yeah.
But anyway, yes, I watched it and I liked it. I liked boxing. I think that Mayweather is a very calculated boxer. In my opinion, it was a little boring, but I think that he realized that he didn't have to work as hard. So why do it? You know,
Yeah.
He landed more punches than Pacquiao did, and that's how you win. Period. Whether they're knockouts or not, but actual contact blows, he landed the most. So that's how you win. It's a game. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Fight it. It was what it was. He did his job. He didn't knock him out, but I thought it was quite interesting that Pacquiao said that he thought he won. I was like, you are obviously punch drunk, maybe, because um, you
Were you in the same fight?
then you punch as him, but okay, but they did a lot of dancing, and Mayweather tired him out, in a lot of instances. He rocked him a couple of times, and vice versa. But like I said, I think that the one thing that I think we like to confuse, and I think it's a part of this whole systematic, racist media garbage, is that we look at someone's character and we judge their craft according to their character. And I think that Mayweather is
Elaborate, because I think you're going somewhere that I'm about to go. Okay, go ahead.
Mayweather is a great fighter. He knows what he's doing. He has perfected his craft. He is an excellent boxer. That has absolutely nothing to do with his personal life, with the way that he conducts himself on the streets. I think that he's a terrible person. However, that's just my opinion. Okay, but in the ring with Pacquiao, it's about the art of boxing, not about him and his baby mamas. So I think that is taken into consideration more with black celebrities than it is with other celebrities. I think that it is taken into consideration with other celebrities as well, but I think that we hold black people's character to a higher standard than we do non-black people, because there are some of us that are, famous for making sex tapes, and that's fine. But if you're a black dude and you got a couple baby mamas, you didn't come from the greatest upbringing, and you made some mistakes before you got famous. That's spotlighted, more than that good old sex tape. So go ahead, Mika.
Okay. All right. But before I go in, Sonny, do you want to weigh in on that?
No, because we may go towards the same route.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I'll let you go, but I'm going to say I'm not a fan of Money Mayweather. I respect his craft, but from a perspective of his brand and his business, I'm not feeling him. But I'll let you go, and then maybe we may jump in and intertwine it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I didn't watch the fight either. And honestly, I don't have $100, so there probably wasn't ever any risk of me watching it on my HBO anyway.
Oh, you go to somebody's house. I went to somebody's house.
But I wasn't even going to do that. And here is why. I don't think that you can separate the person from their craft. Or I think you can. I don't think you should. And especially with Money Mayweather. Maybe even more so than with other celebrities. And that is because I feel like this whole $240 million that you threw out there, that's because people go see it. Like as a boxer, he gets more of the money from fans than in any other sports. So I feel like as a fan or as a spectator or somebody that pays for the pay-per-view or goes to the fight and goes to Vegas in person and pays for tickets and all that stuff, like you're literally directly contributing to his ability to do the awful shit that he does outside of the ring. So knowing that, fuck him. And pardon my language, but no, I'm not. I'm gonna draw the line. I don't care if he's a good boxer. I am not going to support your habit of beating the shit out of black women. I don't care who you are, and I don't care how good you are at it. Okay, all right, and good point. I'm not going to support your habit of beating the shit out of women. Period.
I understand.
Money Mayweather, Bill old ass Cosby, Chris, wannabe Ike Turner, Brown. Yeah, all you mofos, go to hell, straight to hell. R. Kelly and Chris Brown will never see another of my dollars as long as I live.
But I want you to notice you just named a bunch of black men.
Right, absolutely.
Nobody to the white men. Absolutely. Wives too, though. Nobody.
Absolutely. You know what? Absolutely. You're right. And I don't think that being black should get you off for doing awful shit.
It shouldn't, but it gets you off if you're white.
But we're not talking about white people. We're talking about these mofos. And the white people that screw up, fuck them too. They ain't get none of my money either, okay? But since I'm not talking about them right now, like, I feel like as women, and this is a thing that, again, black women fall into this constantly. And, like, you heard it a lot around the discussion of Bill Cosby. Like, the few black women, what was it, Beverly Johnson, that came forward. And why she didn't, like, the first thing people asked her when they were accusing her of lying is, why didn't you say anything at the time? And she said, as a black woman, she didn't want to be responsible for taking down this black man. Like, she felt like she would be sort of becoming a part of this system, the same system that criminalizes, disenfranchised black men like Freddie Gray and Mike Brown and all the countless other black men that have died at the hands of police. She felt like reporting him would have been feeding into that system.
Okay.
And I'm not disagreeing with her. Like, clearly she would have been kicking off criminal investigations and charges or whatever. I am not going to go as far as to say that because you are black and you do something awful, you should get off if you do it to a black person. That is bullshit. That's bullshit. And I'm not going to give Money Mayweather a pass because he can get in the ring and beat the hell out of some poor little Filipino guy. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to give him a pass.
Wait. You're saying that's what I said? Because that's not what I said.
I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm not saying that's what you said at all. But I'm saying that's how I feel. Like, I feel like I'm not going to separate the two. I know that a lot of people do. I'm not going to do that. That's all I got.
That's 100%. You're right. You know what I'm saying? I can't take that from you at all. Like, I started my initial conversation about this with, I'm not a fan of his. You know what I'm saying? I'm not at all. I don't have on anything that says, Money Team or anything like that. I'm not a fan of his. But like I said, in reference to what it is, I mean that can go into any sport though. Whether it's
sport, any art,
anything as it relates to being a famous person that's being spotlighted for a talent. Very often I'm reminded by sports fans that prior to the social media being the way that it was, one of our absolute favorite celebrities, Michael Jordan, not the greatest guy. You know what I'm saying? On a personal level. But because he had so much behind him, Nike and, all these endorsements and all these people, they hid a lot of the foolishness that he was involved in, to keep that image. So there's, there's lots of levels to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make clear, like, it's not, like, I feel like there's a line between a celebrity, whether it's a sports person or a musician or a movie star or whoever. Like, I feel like there's a line between somebody that's just a jerk, that's just, not a nice person, and someone who commits crimes. Like, and that's the distinction I mean to make. Like, because I kind of feel like, I don't really care for Michael Jordan either, but I haven't heard, and I don't know, maybe I just haven't heard these, and if so, these statements might be premature, but like, I'm making that difference between, okay, I don't feel like I'm enabling crimes against other people by supporting Michael Jordan, even though I don't like him, even though I think he's a jerk.
Okay.
Like, whereas for me, I would feel like I'm enabling Money Mayweather to be violent against other women, some of those women who look like me. Like, I feel like that's the line right there. It's like that. I feel like that's the difference between R. Kelly and Bill Cosby, and white celebrities as well. What's his name? Famous liberal now, Sean Penn, who said all that racist stuff at the Oscars. People tend to forget he also beat the shit out of Madonna back in the day. Abusive. Screw him too. And he's white. So, like, I feel like that's the difference. It's like, and again, this isn't a judgment on anybody that did go to the fight or did pay for it on pay-per-view. It's not a judgment against them. You know, you can support who you want, absolutely. But that was my reason. Like, I'm good. Money Mayweather, congratulations and good for you, but I'm good. So I didn't mean to attack you, if that's how it came off. I certainly didn't mean to do that. But I want to make that distinction, is that, you know, I've heard the stuff about Michael Jordan too, but have there been charges against him? Like, have there been allegations of him beating or raping or doing stuff like that, other than just, like, I've heard the stuff about him being a bad tipper and then being kind of rude and then being arrogant and mean. I've heard that stuff,
I mean, speculation is speculation. I wouldn't dare say anything.
Okay. Okay. Well, no, I'm talking about actual charges, like Cosby.
Again, because of who he was, that wouldn't happen. So, but even still, I mean, you know, again, like I said, I'm not in any way, shape, or form defending it. You know, no, I didn't pay for it. But I'm not in any way, shape, or form defending it. You know, like I said, it certainly has some character flaws and some things that are downright terrible. You know, but from a boxing standpoint, it is what it is. You know, but everybody has their, you know, level of support, you know, that they want to show. You know, so all celebrities are involved in different things. We find out more and more when celebrities start speaking out on politics. We find out that, oh wow, you can sing, but you're an idiot. You know, so
right. Exactly.
You know, I mean, I remember the Mel Gibson rant about you know, everybody from Jews to Negroes to women. To, you know what I'm saying? He went from right on to the, you know, Holocaust. So you know what I'm saying? Everybody has their issues or, you know, whatever. So, but like I said, in my opinion, I just feel like we nail black men to the cross a little harder than we do us celebrities. And again, I'm not saying they don't deserve that cross. I'm just saying I think that we kind of go a little harder at them because of this system.
That's true.
And
I would say everybody should be nailed to the cross hard. Well, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm still not going to apologize for not messing with Chris Brown. So, sorry.
No, that's fine. Like I said, you hate him. Go ahead, get you a sign, get you a shirt.
Well, you know, like, the thing is, like, because he's, like, he does make good music, and, like, his music is all over the radio, and it drives me nuts. Like, I'll be in the car, like, listening to something, and be jamming, and then be like, okay, and that was the new single by Chris Brown. And you're like, God damn it, like, damn it. I'm so mad.
Yeah. And I guess I look at it a little bit different. And the way I think I look at it from a perspective of everybody makes mistakes, but I think how you handle them afterward really says your character and whatnot. And I think, I know this may sound horrible as a woman saying this, but say, for instance, Chris Brown, or say, for instance, Floyd Mayweather. Yes, you did something that was really bad and you harmed a woman. Sometimes I think that sometimes people snap, and I think that is possible, that we snap and we just lose who we are. But I feel like if he was much more apologetic to what he did, and I think if he was more of a mentor to be, I will say this, let me make sure I phrase this correctly, because I'm not saying that celebrities need to be role models, but I do think that the weight that they carry when they do something like that, and you really are sincere about apologizing to what you've done to a woman, be a better spokesperson in the sense of, I apologize, what I did wasn't right, but, you know, you shouldn't do what I did, or, you know what I'm saying, like, figuring out your anger issues. And I know it doesn't sound right as a woman for me to even open the door for a second chance, but I can see from a spectator.
I'm not Ray. I just want to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Mayweather, 21 calls from his house for domestic abuse.
And it still continues because even
we're past the second chance.
But go ahead. No, I guess what I'm saying is that's why I'm not feeling the money team thing, because I see a lot of little black boys who are looking at his rise to fame, and also seeing how he mistreated a woman who had an abortion, and how you know what I'm saying, and how he treats women in general on social media. So I think, you know, for him to be a grown ass man and for him to be where he is, certain things in his life I think he should take into consideration of his brand. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as a spectator sport, you know, you can respect him, you can love him, do all this and the third. But I feel like because he's just not respectful in the sense of being remorseful for the things he's done, that's where he just sits as an asshole in my book. But I also feel like his fights are boring because I watched the last one a year ago and this one this year, and I'm like, what the hell do people like him for? Because I ain't gonna lie, I love Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson, you know, granted was charged for something, but I still love me some Mike Tyson at the end of the day. And I just feel like with this Mayweather thing, I think either boxing now, again, I don't know if it's because boxing doesn't really have anybody else as a superstar right now as a platform, and that's why he gets all this praise right now. But I'm not feeling dude, and I wish him well. He has a great legacy, but his brand just, it doesn't do anything for me. I can't be a fan, and I think a lot of it just consists of how his brand comes off to me.
Okay, I think that's fair. I do.
But yeah.
All right. Well, this has certainly been a fascinating conversation, and I've probably offended all of our Chris Brown fans. Sorry. Not really, Sideeye. Did you guys have anything you wanted to plug or shout out, or any announcements you wanted to make, or anything going on other than that Sunny is going to read The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl next week?
Yeah.
That's the first chapter.
I got a little bit, you know, give me some credit. I will say this, Selma comes out this week, and I don't say watch it for the march, but watch it for the understanding of where we are and how far we need to be going, and why civil rights is a very big important part of our current state. I think that that's very important that people watch that movie to be inspired, but also see that we're still living in some times that are very dark, and we've got to figure out how to get out of that darkness.
Okay. Awesome.
Very good.
Miss Chris, did you have anything you wanted to announce or shout out, or
No, not at all.
anything going on?
I've kind of been in the shadows this week, so no.
Okay. Yeah, nothing for me. I'm just gonna get off here and I guess post my final exam and watch Game of Thrones. Yay.
Oh, okay. Them Thrones. I can't wait. In fact, I need to go because it's about to come on. So.
Right, it's about to come on now. So, bye guys.
Bye.
Until next week.
Have a good week.